428, I believe, and we are about to get started with some mobility. My hair is telling me that it wants to stand upright. For those of you who are watching, my name is Toby. I am 40 years old, 41 years old, and I am training to live an active, adventurous, and self-sufficient life. I do so by minding my sleep. I try to get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every day. Yesterday was 5 hours 45 minutes. Today was 7 hours and 50 minutes, which is a lot better. I feel a lot better rested, despite there being numerous interruptions throughout the night. But it's part of being a father. What can I say? I try to eat within my energy balance, which is about 2200, 2100. And I'm currently still tracking my calories to come to a better understanding of where I'm at in my ability to eyeball my nutrition. And of course, after tracking for 3 days, I can tell you that my assumptions and the guardrails around my diet, my dietary requirements had been quite off for quite a while probably. But hey, we live and learn. Within that mix, I try to eat about 120 to 150 grams of protein, which I have been hitting consistently over time. I try to eat a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, salads, freshly cooked vegetables, and I try to eat, whole foods. We're going to talk a bit more about nutrition throughout the mobility session, actually. And I show up to do mobility training like I'm doing this morning, strength training and conditioning training here at home with the kettlebells you can see behind me. If that's something you're interested in, you can check out my other videos, or you can join me by subscribing to my channel for the streams or for any of my shorts or long forms. All with the intents and purposes of being fit, capable, and competent for whatever life is going to throw at me, which can be a lot. So that's what I'm after here. This is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. Like I said, I would like to feel fit, capable, and competent for life. And I think that combination of sleep, nutrition, and training mixed in with spending time with people I love and care about, doing things that I enjoy, and generally trying to avoid stress as much as possible, keep me relatively centered and well balanced in life. But I am fortunate enough to have been able to create the space in my life to actually do that. There are different health goals, and we're going to talk about nutrition in relation to different health goals throughout today's session. But just keep in mind that wherever you are on your health and fitness journey, you're good. Your goal is your goal, and everyone's entitled and allowed to have the goals that they want to have, whether they're aesthetic goals or strength goals or any other kind of goals. The most important thing is that we're doing things to get to those goals consistently over an extended period of time. And there are different strategies to get to different goals that we can talk about. If you have any questions, you go ahead and ask me. We're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. And the only way to get anything done is by showing up and doing the work. So I am going to turn on the camera. Turn on the camera. The camera's already on, I hope. But you let me know in chat. I'm going to turn on the timer. And we are going to slowly get started with some mobility and some core work this morning as we discuss nutrition. All right. And first of all, you can tell me how your February has been. It's 25th of February. This month will come to an end on Friday. So, how has the second month of the year been for you in terms of chasing your health and nutrition goals? Sorry, your health and fitness goals. I hope that it has been a good month. I feel that I struggled in January a little bit in terms of finding my groove for the year. We will make a point out of traveling to the sun next winter. Because I feel that what got in the way was my the lack of sunshine for me that always starts in December, actually November. And it continues to get worse as the days get shorter, despite my best efforts to spend time outside while the sun's out. And it's just that 1 or 2 weeks of sunshine that really make a big difference in my state of mind. And being aware of that is important when it comes to general health and fitness. But somewhere mid-January, thankfully, we snapped out of that. Also thanks to some of the people who were watching the stream, and we got back into a groove of daily workouts. So one of the key indicators that I was struggling was also that I had started to be okay with skipping workout days. So, knowing that in the long run and in the short run, meaning on the day itself, but also over the course of the next year and next 10 years and 20 years and 30 years, I was cheating myself out of some health and fitness. But here we are. Been showing up consistently for 6 weeks again. I'm feeling really good about it. All right. So that's where I'm at on my journey through this year. In February, let's hope that it stays that way. I remember last year around this time I developed a neck herniation. Pushed myself a bit too far, a bit too fast. We're working still with a physiotherapist to recover and build that strong shoulder and neck to help prevent anything like that from happening again, because it was an unpleasant experience that I would very much like to avoid in life again. With that being said, let's talk about nutrition, because I always say it's about sleep, it's about food, and it's about movement. I feel we don't spend nearly enough time talking about nutrition, and I intend to make a longer form video about food and about good food habits. So I'm basically trying to memorize and structure my talking points by going through them on the live stream and finding different angles to discuss the topic. So it's an interesting topic. We're going to do this twice. 80 seconds. Because it's just such a nice, comfortable position to be in. So first and foremost, the thing we need to understand is that food, nutrition geared towards our goals is a skill. And if something is a skill, then we can learn to get better at it. It's that simple. There are best practices. There are things that we need to know and understand. And then there are things that we need to do consistently that will change our nutrition, our eating habits, patterns, choices, and those taken together are going to have a positive outcome, impact, positive influence on our health and fitness goals. But it is a skill. It's something you can learn, just like you can learn how to move and do a deadlift by learning the technique, creating the base strength and the base conditioning, turning that deadlift into heavier and heavier kettlebell swings. You can learn about food, and you can learn the skills related to buying food, preparing food, planning meals, understanding how different foods or parts of food, things that we call micronutrients and micronutrients, work together to influence your health. And the thing about food to keep in mind is that food's very personal. What works for one person, like what works for me, doesn't necessarily work for you, as in the structure, shape, portion, frequency of my diet and food choices. And at the same time, there are some universal principles rooted in our biology, the science of how our body processes, uses foods as fuel that we can't escape. And it's about trying to strike the right balance between those two things, what works for us and what is a natural and biological, inescapable fact. Balancing that is part of the skill of food, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So let's dive into some of the basics about nutrition, all right? And one of the basics of nutrition is that food is fuel. It's very simple. We, as human beings, simply by existing, require energy. We require energy because our brain needs to function. We need to breathe. Our heart needs to beat. We need to move. We need to be able to activate our muscles, even if we're sitting still. And meantime, our body is repairing itself, regenerating itself. We are thinking, and sending all of these signals throughout our bodies, whether we're conscious of them or not, all requires energy. So food is fuel, all right? And the most important principle here to keep in mind, we're going to talk a bit more about how to think about strategies for food in general as we're acquiring this skill, is the concept of energy balance. Because if we understand energy balance, then we can have a tremendous influence over our long-term health and fitness, because energy balance is the way to provide ourselves with optimal nutrition choices that serve our needs, but at the same time be mindful of the potential benefits and drawbacks of disregarding the principle of energy balance. And energy balance is very simply this. If I require 2,000 calories of energy in a day, because that's how we express our energy expenditure. I'm just going to keep doing this one for another 40 seconds. And I consume 1,500 calories, I am in an energy deficit. If I require 2,000 calories and I consume 2,500 calories, I am in an energy surplus. And if I require 2,000 calories and I consume 2,000 calories, I am energy neutral. Relatively straightforward, right? And it is that simple fact that we all probably intuitively understand and think that we can manipulate. So, for example, as a general rule, if I move less, my energy expenditure goes slightly down. If I move more, my energy expenditure will increase. Sure, this, in a broad sense, is absolutely true. But unless you are, for example, working physically, and I mean moving around, lifting heavy things, walking up and down stairs or climbing up and down ramps, um, running, moving faster, then slower. If you are just moderately active throughout the day, your energy need is not going to grow significantly. So as a baseline, right? It's not like you can, through a moderately active life, bump up your energy requirement expressed in calories by 500 or 1,000 calories in a day. You'd need to run for maybe 2 or 3 hours, or continuously be lifting heavy weights. And I mean continuously, not 30 seconds of exercise and 4 minutes of break. But really continuously, like I just described, be moving around to really increase that output significantly, significant heart rate, utilizing a lot of your muscles in the process. So generally we can do some slight manipulations. For example, if we are used to riding a bike 2 times 15 minutes in a day, right, in the morning to our office and back in the evening, that will probably factor into our energy requirement for the day. And were we then to stop biking for an extended period of time, let's say a week or two, you would notice that that 15 minutes of cycling, or the lack of that 15 minutes of cycling, means that you now have less of an energy requirement than you would have. And if you do not reflect that change in your dietary choices, you are going to create an energy surplus. It is that simple, right? It's not going to be huge. Might be about 50 calories or 100 calories in a day, but over consuming 50 calories or 100 calories over the course of, let's say, a month is probably going to lead to some light weight gain, because that's how this works. Whatever energy we consume and we do not utilize is going to be stored in our bodies for future use. Now, if we understand energy balance and we understand the nuance there, i.e. that we cannot honestly out-train a poor diet. Then we're ready to start looking at different goals. So up until now we've discussed that food is a skill, nutrition is a skill. The understanding that nutrition or food is fuel for our bodies to do the activities that we need to do to basically stay alive, but also to move around, be active, and that there is this universal rule of energy balance that our bodies even though we're all different, require a certain amount of energy to exist, to be well, and to be active. And that, depending on how physically active we are, the energy requirement fluctuates. And it fluctuates less than we would want it to, unless we engage in really vigorous exercise over extended periods of time throughout the day. So there's a big difference in energy expenditure if I'm hiking 6 to 8 hours a day through the mountains, or if I'm sitting at a desk 6 to 8 hours a day typing emails, drinking coffee, and attending meetings, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. All right. So let's talk about different goals. First of all, we need to understand that for health and fitness, we're looking at food as fuel specifically for our health, well-being, and our ability to perform and function throughout the day. But food can also be social. It can be something that we enjoy with others. And then it has a completely different function, and there's a completely different intention behind our consumption of the food. Or it can be for pleasure, meaning that we're eating the food for the way it tastes, for the satisfaction that the flavor, the combination of flavors provides us. And in that case, there's still fuel for our bodies, because whatever we consume, our body is going to transform into, process and transform into fuel. But we come to the table with a different intention. In this conversation, we're talking about food as fuel related to our health and fitness goals and health and fitness outcomes. All right? And we need to structure the way in which we think about food. And I think one of the best ways to structure the way we approach food is by using a little model that has been proven to be very useful to people in the health and fitness industry over time. Hey there, YouTube Punk. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate you dropping by and saying hello. And I hope that you are doing well. I'm going to come over and read your messages in a bit. So before we dive into that model, right, that's going to help us think about food, we need to address some of the clutter and confusion that exists or has been created in the world by fitfluencers and influencers and people with bad intentions when it comes to your diet and your food. First of all, like I said before, food is very personal. And we exist in a world where naturally there are different sources of nutrition available to us. And general rule, if it is not poisonous, we can generally consume and extract the nutrients from the food without much ill befalling us as human beings, right? That's why you see so much variety of foods across different cultures, across the world, because different geographies provided different types of food for us to thrive and survive on. Hey Toby, you can't say, go on and say that. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear you're doing well and have a good time at work. All right, be safe, be well, and take care. So, food in that context, right? There are a lot of available foods, or a lot of foods available to us that we can use and consume. There will be people out there who will tell you that you shouldn't eat this, or you shouldn't eat that, or this is killing you, this is killing your gains. This is, sorry, that's a bad joke. But I think if you're watching enough fitness content, you'll know what I'm talking about. That this is, that you should only eat this kind of food or that kind of food. Hey there, thanks for dropping by. I'll come over and read your message in a moment. That you should only read one type of food or another type of food, or all kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is that those things might be true for you as an individual or for them as an individual, but they are not universal rules or principles that are helpful in terms of developing a healthy relationship with food and nutrition, but also structuring our nutrition and our food in a way that is going to help us reach our health and fitness goals over an extended period of time. All right? There's a simpler way to look at things, and it starts with the understanding that yes, there are going to be foods that work well for you, and there are foods that are not going to work well for you. I'll give you an example from my personal life. I am lactose intolerant. So if I eat lactose-rich foods, or with any amount of lactose in them, my energy levels drop because I can't process them properly. All right? So it's true that there are foods that do work for me and don't work for me. The home slice and skillet show. Keep going live, you will grow. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for dropping by and saying hi. And I hope you're doing well where you are in the world. And I appreciate the comment and you hitting that like button and helping me out here. Thanks a lot. We're talking about nutrition, so it's always good to have a good set of pans in the house to make sure that whatever you're going to cook, you can comfortably cook them with a good set of pans on your stove, right? But that is coming back to the point of foods that do and don't work for us as individuals. That is about the extent of it. There are very few really bad foods, and there are very few really superfoods. You are better off with a variety of foods, actually sources of nutrition, because each different food has a different micronutrient profile. And that mix of micronutrients, I think we beginning to understand, has some sort of an impact on the gut microbiome, which is a very important part of our immune system and our ability to heal and recover. So keeping that strong and healthy is as important as keeping your heart well and your lungs well, for example. All right. So in that context, how can we structure our thinking about food? Well, we can structure our thinking about food relatively simply. We can look at the order in which we approach the building blocks of nutrition. And we already discussed the primary one. That is energy balance. That's the base of a pyramid. This is Eric Helm's pyramid of nutrition, by the way. I discovered it like 7 years ago. It's been on YouTube for God knows how long, like 15 years now, maybe. And other people present other variations of it, and I think that was the first iteration of it that I encountered and found on my fitness journey, was sent to by my first real personal trainer. All right, so the base of the pyramid, energy balance. Balancing what we take in with the demands on it. And I've been living in a calorie deficit consciously for 3 days now. A slight one, not even a huge one. And I notice the impact a deficit has on my energy levels. And usually when we say we're well fed, there is abundant energy for whatever we're doing in life. All right? I should just keep that in mind. And by the way, if you're watching right now, go ahead, hit that like button, check out my channel, say hello in chat. Let me know you're there, or ask me anything you want to ask about nutrition or food. If you want to go to my channel and subscribe, that'd be super awesome. But, don't feel like we have to. Just think about it. So we have energy balance there, right? At the base of that pyramid. Because that's also where we can make the biggest gains in our health and fitness. Usually, especially if we're starting out, but also generally through life. Everything more or less stacks on top of our ability to maintain and control the intake versus the expenditure. The second block in that pyramid is macronutrient balance. So here we get a bit more specific about our goals. So for example, do we need to fuel up for endurance? Or are we trying to fuel up to grow muscles? Or are we fueling for any other kind of endeavor, for output, for strength output? And you'll see that whatever it is that you are fueling up for, there's going to be a different macronutrient composition that you are going to try to reach or hit. So for example, in my case, I am trying to build muscle, and I'm trying to shed some of my softer tissue or fat in favor of muscle. That requires a certain amount of protein intake consistently to focus on building that muscle mass, because as a general rule of thumb, you can think of fat and carbohydrates as fuels, and you can think of protein as building blocks for your muscles and other systems. There we go. Now we're done with the mobility section, 601. Going to do a little bit of core, the basics. And then we're going to call it a day. So hey, think about that. That the second step in that pyramid is the macronutrient composition and the balance between those. And to keep things simple, carbohydrates and proteins per gram are 4 calories. Fats are about 9 calories. So what you get is, by understanding your energy balance and then understanding the proportions in which you want to be consuming proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, it's going to give you an idea of how many calories you need to consume of each. And usually you'll find that once you meet the baseline protein and fat, there's a lot of room to increase your carbohydrate intake. But you can also always increase any of the other ones, your fat intake, if that is something that you would like to do. All right. After macronutrients come the micronutrients. So this is where you start to pay attention to your vitamins and minerals and whatever else is in your system that helps you function, and you can have that tested and measured. And as a general rule, there are nutritional choices you can make that are going to allow you to consume sufficient of those vitamins and minerals to let you function throughout the day, to let you function well. However, should you find that your diet and whatever calculation you make about your energy balance and your macronutrients prove to be insufficient, you get to the final part of that pyramid, and that is supplementation, right? So you can then look at your dietary needs and you can supplement. You can also supplement things like creatine in order to get a bit more out of your workouts. I don't, but as far as I understand it, it's a safe supplement, so it's not off the table for me. So that provides a bit of an order to think about it, to think about our food and how we approach food. Are we eating too little, too much, or enough? Are we eating sufficient proteins, carbohydrates, and fats for our goals, for our function? And for 99% of us, more of us than we think, just mastering those two things is going to have a tremendous impact on our long-term health and fitness. All right? You won't need to do a lot more than that. Mark my words. But if you are interested, you can get your blood work done and you understand your micronutrient profile. I am about to have that done because I feel that I would like to better understand if there are any deficiencies in my micronutrient profile and how I can best address them. I just did a test on omega-3, which has something to do with our cardiovascular health and our body's ability to manage the level of inflammation. And we would want to know about other things, vitamin D, vitamin B, etc. as well. But that is a minor improvement. The biggest health gains I'm going to get from managing my energy balance and my fats, carbohydrates, and protein intake. All right. So, structured way to think about food. So now we need to think about our meals, right? And the thing that we need to think about when it comes to our meals is, okay, how do they factor into our energy balance? What is the macronutrient profile? And do I have some variation day to day so that I'm hitting those different micronutrients and feeding that gut microbiome? Right? And the simplest way to do this, to be consistent with this, is to experiment, explore different meals over time. And then, once you've done that, create a set of go-to meals. 3 breakfasts, 3 different lunches, and 5 different dinners. They are going to probably give you sufficient variety throughout the week. My breakfast is basically always the same. I don't give it any thought. Lunch is usually always a salad with some protein and a slice of bread or some carbs with minimal. And dinner is different nearly every time. But creating a set of go-to meals that more or less cover that energy balance and that macronutrient profile that you're after makes life easy, because it helps you with the most important thing that will make or break good food habits, and that is what we buy in the supermarket, what we have delivered to our house. All right? Because that's where food and being consistent about food truly starts. That is with our ability to control what's available, because opportunity makes the thief. What that means is that if it's not in the house, we're less likely to eat it. We might choose a healthier alternative over our craving. So that's just something to consider. Started. Food is a skill. It's fuel. And it has a social element. It can have a pleasure element to it. In the context of health and fitness, we're focused on food as fuel for our health goals and our health outcomes. And different goals will have different food requirements. An endurance athlete, power lifter, someone who is physically active 8 hours a day because they work in construction versus a desk jockey like myself have different energy requirements throughout the day. And it can help us consider food by structuring our understanding of what's important when we're making food choices. Most important being energy balance, then the macronutrient profile. Then we can be concerned about micronutrients and about supplementation at the end of that. When we fix those bottom two, because that's where the biggest win for our health and fitness are likely going to be. Creating a set of go-to meals is going to help us hit that energy balance and that macronutrient profile over time consistently, and it will also help us where food starts, which is with what we bring into the house, so our shopping list, the grocery list, what we buy at the supermarket, what we have delivered to our house, or the types of takeaway, if that is going to be a consistent part of your diet. Even though I would recommend home-cooked foods, but I can understand sometimes you have to eat outdoors to know what the best alternatives are given your energy balance and your macronutrient profile. That's how we can try to be consistent with food, make sure that we eat what's in the house, we only bring in the things that we want to eat that will contribute towards our health goals. There should always be room for eating for pleasure, eating in social engagements. And we should have some strategies like drinking a glass of water, grabbing an alternative, or doing some light exercise before getting into the impulse of eating something that is not going to contribute to our overall health and fitness outcomes if we didn't plan or intend to eat it. Food's a touchy subject. Weight is a touchy subject. Food works different for everyone, like I said at the beginning. Be mindful, be happy. It's better to be at the same weight over an extended period of time than to fluctuate, and develop a healthy relationship with food in the best way that you can. Alright, friends? My name is Toby, I'm 41 years old, and I'm training to live an active, self-sufficient and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep. In 7 or 9 hours a night, minding what I eat. I try to eat within my energy balance, which is 2100-2200 calories in a day, and I try to eat lots of fresh strength training, conditioning training, and mobility training, as you've seen this morning. Some mobility work to stay fit and healthy, because I want to feel fit, competent, and capable for whatever life is going to throw at me over time. All right, we're good, just the way we are. We've got to allow ourselves to overcome the wall. And there are people out there who want to put us down, so let's lift ourselves up. Let's be kind to ourselves today. And the only way to get anything now, friends, is by showing up and doing the work. So thanks for dropping by. Hit like, subscribe to my channel, and